$30. That's the price of my whole fit. You got Gucci on your jacket and I'm laughing. Pass the booth, I ain't gon' have it. Yeah, the truth is what I'm rapping.
I got all this money, but it's not what makes me happy. Used to be so cocky, but it's now all just the past me. Speakers loud, roof is down, riding through my city now. Cheesing for the picture, I'm open, I got no worries now. I got all this money, but it's not what makes me happy. Used to be so cocky, but it's now all just the past me. Speakers loud, roof is down, riding through my city now. Cheesing for the picture, I'm open, I got no worries now. I got some things in my mind that I think will be better off sitting the song, yeah. Be my addiction and be my depression, I'm winning against all the odds, yeah. Pride got the best of me, I was a center, a player, I fell to the ground. They told me I won't make it, I took it and made something greater. I'm lost, but I know I'll be found, yeah. Saying now, they gon' know the name, I'm a hard hitter on the road to fame. I was feeling down, so I wrote a page, could have beat, leaving it a murder case. She gon' want me when the lights down, yeah, I'm feeling it right now. Setting up the new heights now, smile for the bite down. I got all this money, but it's not what makes me happy. Used to be so cocky, but it's now all just the past me. Speakers loud, roof is down, riding through my city now. She's in for the picture, I'm open, I got no worries now. I got all this money, but it's not what makes me happy. Used to be so cocky, but it's now all just the past me. Speakers loud, roof is down, riding through my city now. She's in for the picture, I'm open, I got no worries now.
Bro, that was my first song, dude. The next one, a little bit, you know what I'm saying?
I can't really get it right. I've been so alone, honestly, I think at night. I can't really fade, you can see it in my eyes. Deep down in my soul, you can see my despise. Running up, we got to gain, and it's freaking suicide. I don't really understand why we gotta fight, how come we can't coincide? Why she really tryna cheat, yeah, she really wanna get a freaking man inside. If I really find out, little baby, I might have to make your mama cry. Ooh, I'm so tired. She broke my heart apart, my heart on fire. Make it hit notes on Mariah, my heart on fire. See, I'm a man, we cannot cry. Too much I can't change, but I cannot change for you. And they know I've been supporting, even though I know that they bout to hate on you. I know that I'll go insane, if I go insane, then I'll bust a brain for you. I don't even gotta beg, baby girl, I really gotta eat your cake for you. Too much on my mind, I've been going out. Too much in my life, and it's getting rough. Baby, I understand, you just wanna cuffs. You just really wanna last, you never really love. See, you a liar. You think that you live like a princess, not a squire. All my homies, we got the bands, we not for hire. I got Nick Cannons in the back, you not Mariah. Told him to move, told him to move. She cannot make all these plans, move how I move, move how I move. And if you don't wanna smash, do what I do. I know you capping, you smashed the crew. Yeah, right down on my roads, I can't really get it right. I've been so alone, honestly, I think at night. I can't really fade, you can see it in my eyes. Deep down in my soul, you can see my despise. Running up, we got to gain, and it's freaking suicide. I really understand why we gotta fight, how come we can't coincide? She really tryna cheat, yeah, she really wanna get a freaking man inside. If I really find out, little baby, I might have to make your mama cry.
Welcome everybody to RSCast, where we're gonna recap everything from the past week. Look forward to everything happening this week. I'm Tavish, gonna be your host, and obviously I got the two guys who are always here, Kingsman Gas and Buddha, with me. Kingsman Gas, Buddha, how are you guys doing?
Well, obviously back. Love being back every week. This is going to be a regular thing with you as well, Tavish, so we might have to introduce you as one of the regulars from now on. But yeah, we're getting towards the end. Obviously, roster lock at the end of this week, so this is where things really begin to spice up.
Yeah, look forward to it. Another week, another dollar or pound, I just want to say here, but you know, is what it is.
You'll get paid.
We're late because Kingsman's always waking up late, so you know, blame Kingsman on that one. He's always, he just turns up last minute. It's crazy, but I'm here for another good night. You know, I'm always on time, so Tavish, I look forward to it.
Yeah, well, you know, Kingsman's always late. Some of us just, you know, playing prospect scrims. But that's enough for us. Let's go straight into the results of last week. Starting off in prospect, like always. Kingsman, giving it to you for the Glaciers Conference.
Well, Glaciers Conference, I love talking about this, but only one team picks up 2 wins. It's going to be Fearless Echo. They get a 7-1 of 4-0 onto Terra and a
Yeah, the
disappearing,
and
they're disappearing. And as I was going to say, Serene Taisho took their first loss to Fearless, but you know what? You guys can't see that, and I can't see that on the spreadsheet either. So, yeah, but as I was going to say, Tomfoolery, they picked up 2 draws, not helping them. They're on a poor run of form. They were top 3 weeks ago, so nothing helping there. But another team that's not having anything go their way is Primordial. They faced 2 losses, a 3-1 loss to Caro and a 4-0 loss to the Palmer side. So not much looking good for them. And there's a few teams that are starting to crumble here. There we go. It's all back.
Yeah, we have the overlay back. We got everything back under control. And like you said, Primordial definitely not having their week together with some others. But now, Buddha, giving it to you for Ignis Conference.
Well, to start it off, we got Newborn. They go 7-1. They got a 3-1 victory onto Jabatus, which was a big series, so a big victory there for Newborn. Then they continued that with a 4-0 sweep onto Mosaic, so massive week here for Newborn, going 7-1. And then we saw Jabatus finding another loss as well, losing 3-1 to Tartarus, which Tartarus did then follow through with a draw onto Anubis. And also, you know, going into this week, Jabatus and Newborn, that was a big matchup. And obviously for both sides, have been top dogs all season long. So that was definitely a big series for either side. And we've also got Propel. After losing 4-0 to Mosaic, they did find a result of a win, which was a 4-0 sweep of their own onto Cardinals. A lot of sweeps going back and forth, and we only saw 2 draws. So some teams are definitely edging out for their victories, really looking for their wins for those play-ins or playoff spots.
Yeah, and you know, kind of sad here since Livens, the bottom team that never won.
I was just about to say, I forgot about that. we did have your team as well. They found, you know, we actually, all of us after the last, what was it, after the last RSCast or something? They played against Dwarves. Yeah, it was 2-1 up to Livens going into Game 4. We're just sitting here watching ball chasing, and we saw it unreal. Yeah, English, amazing, but thank you, mate. So and then we saw they took their first series win, and then they took another 3-1 up to Obscurity. So for Livens, it's a massive week for them. I'm sure the boys over there, or just the team in general over there, is happy about that.
Yeah, and as GM, I can say, come on, I kind of had to step in for this one, because I got to give a little bit of respect to the boys for having a rough week, but same with all the other results. Definitely Propel having a bit of a rough week, getting swept and sweeping as well. But looking at the standings for Prospect, Kingsman, giving it to you.
Well, Serene Taisho, they may have taken their first loss here, but they still remain on top by 5 wins on 33 wins. But Fearless Echo's double win week, and Ultra finding themselves 2 draws, only equals up the playing fields. Ultra on 28, tied with Fearless, and 1 game behind is Caro, and then 26 are Palmis and Tomfoolery. Very close gap there. Then Terror and Hot Metal lurking 2-3 games outside. Then a huge gap, 9-game gap to Limousine. They have a 12 gap to play-ins. And while Primordial, they have 15 wins till play-ins. So things not looking hopeful for those bottom 2 sides.
So the top 6 slowly solidifying, with Terra and Hot Metal still a little bit in the hunt here in the final weeks, and Limousine and Promoter definitely having either to do a massive catch-up, which is going to be a very tough one. But that was the late season. Let's take a look at Ignis, giving it to you, Buddha.
Well, to start off, we see Propel. Although they got swept 4-0, they're still holding that top spot after getting one victory this week, but they'll be on 32 wins in that top spot. Newborn in second with 31, just one behind, but one behind them in that third final playoff spot will be Jabatus in third. After going 2 and 6, they'll be dropping down there onto 30 wins. Obscurity in fourth, climbing and rising, but not enough to creep into the playoffs just yet. 27 wins will be there for them. And in fifth place will be Tartarus after a good result for one of their series. They will be on 25 and just one game behind them in sixth in that final play-in position. It's going to be Mosaic with 24 wins. But Anubis looking to creep through at some point in the season. They'll be in seventh with 23, and then we start to see the gap. 6 games behind, we'll see Cardinals in eighth. Livens on 16. They have closed the gap that they did have before this week commenced, so they have made it a bit more competitive here for the bottom teams here. They'll be on 16, and Dwarfs in 10th with the 15. But this is great competition here from 8th to 10th here. You know, none of these teams are far out of it. They're all still within reach for play-ins.
Yeah, like you said, and here as well, the top slowly solidifying. There's a little bit of a bigger gap between the top 3 and the rest, but still the bottom 3, if they can make some big results in the coming weeks, they have definitely the potential to bounce back. And with that, we're going to be taking a look at what's coming up this week. And Kingsman, what matchups did you pick?
Well, Tomfoolery, they have a really big week on their hands. Obviously, not found a win in the last 2 weeks has found them in 6th place. And they have Serene Taisho this week, an absolute monster at the top, who have found their first loss of the season, so potentially a bounce back there. And they have Hot Metal, who are finding their first unbeaten week in a while, so looking good for them. And Hot Metal obviously pushing the top 6. Also down the bottom, Limousine, Primordial. Both sides only have one series to win combined, and that goes to Limousine. So maybe Primordial can find a win in that result. But a big week for Phyllis Echoes. They play Palmis in the mid-table. That would really split the gap between mid-table if they were to continue their winning streak here. And they also have Primordial. And maybe they can... They've Primordial and Palmis. That's it. I've almost thought I read the wrong team. But yeah, they could... If Primordial don't get a win this week, it could really bury them into the ground.
So a big week for Primordial, and also kind of here for Palmas. Having 2 series on the same day is going to be a rough one for them. But now looking at Ignis Conference, Buddha, what matchups are interesting to look out for?
Well, before we get into the rest of them, there's a couple, as you can see on screen today. Dwarfs playing both of their series today. And obviously, they're in a position where if they want to make play-ins possible, this is definitely the week to get it going and alive. They'll be playing Tartarus around that mid-table side, so it'll be a good matchup there. But they also do have to play Jabatus, obviously coming off 2 losses. So this is actually a big game for Jabatus themselves, because they've got to get back on track. They've been at the top 2 all season long, and they finally falter with 2 losses in a week. So they got to follow with that, and then also play Mosaic as well the day after, which is, it can be a tough game. We know that roster has that potential. We know when Bryce, aka Gandhi, or whatever his new name is, we know when he's on the field, anything's possible, and it's a dangerous side. So for Jabatus, it's a big week for a bounce back and to see if they can remain up the top. For the other teams here, we got some tough matchups, but for Newborn, obviously they're on a 4 winning streak. The best record in the conference right now. They'll be playing Cardinals, who are looking to get back into play-ins, and they'll also play Livens as well. So for Newborn, on paper, just want to clarify this, on paper, this is a big week, an easy week for them. It should be 2 wins, but you can never say never. For these teams looking for play-ins, they could come really hungry, and obviously Livens found their first 2 wins. They're on a winning streak, so maybe something can happen there. And also for Cardinals, they've just been a bit hit or miss. They've only had a draw and a win in the last 5 series, but maybe something can happen. And for the other teams around in the standings, obviously every series is going to be big and crucial, but we've got Tartarus versus Obscurity, 2 wins apart from those 2 teams, so that'll be a big series for both sides there. And I believe Tartarus in that other matchup, as I mentioned already, they do play Dwarfs, but yeah, some big matchups here for Ignis.
Yeah, and definitely like the one you mentioned out for Newborn, they can definitely solidify themselves as one of the top teams going into playoffs here for the Ignis Conference. But that's enough for Prospect. We're moving up to Challenger. And first, of course, we're going to take a look back at what happened in Week 6. Kingsman, giving it to you.
Well, a lot of teams looking to close the gap, and Disorder, they finally fall to the Oracles side. What a week for Oracles. They 4-0 Masai, which I believe was a forfeit. I might be wrong there, but from what it looks like, it was a forfeit for them. And Fearless Delta even going to beat them. So Masai not looking so good down there, but Disorder, they find a draw and a loss. I think their first negative week all season, but a good result that I'm sure won't change the standings, as it leaves Apprentices the only unbeaten side in the division, as they went, was it 7-1 this week, a massive week for them. Neptunium also went 7-1 as well, so potentially we could see Disorder's dominance slowly coming down to earth.
Yeah, so a lot of results happening. Some teams maybe falling down, some teams still being dominant with not losing. Definitely curious to see how the standings are. But first, Ignis Conference. Buddha, what happened there?
Well, we almost had an 8-0 week, but it was Eclipse starting off their week with a 4-0 sweep onto Kapakli. So not dropping a game there, huge for them. Then following that through with a 3-1 victory as well on to Impulse. So for Eclipse, they did finish up with a 7-1 week. So big from them. Going into that week, they did just receive 2 losses in week number 5. So that's a great bounce back for them. The next team, Feather, they got their 4-0 sweep onto Crusaders. So they started off strong, but then they got a 2-2 draw onto Elves. And Elves, going into this week, I think they were just on the top half of the mid-table range. So for them, that's a good result against Eclipse, and they didn't find a loss there. So I think it's a good result for both sides. It shows that respect of how competitive it is, no matter where the standings are from top to the mid-table teams. So Feather finished in a 6-2 week. And as you can see on screen, we see a 0-0 there from Impulse and Canaans. Is it a double FF, or is it just not shown as a 4?
It's a double FF.
Okay. That is, well, there you go. It's a double FF there, so no teams get some points there. But other than that, there's not too many 4-0s coming from outside of those teams that I mentioned, except I think it was Orcus getting a 4-0 onto Canaan. So for Orcus there, I think that's not too bad after they lost to Elves with that 3-1.
So Orcus regains and a double FF here as well in the conference. 2 other sweeps. Curious to see how the standings have changed. And first, of course, going to Khaleesi's conference. Kingsman, giving it to you.
Well, turns out I was wrong. Disorder, they only have 2 draws, so they managed to keep that first place spot, 37, but the gap is drawn to a close. Apprentices are 2 wins behind. They can smell that first place coming their way. But Neptunium then on 32 rounds out a very, very strong competitive top 3. Actually, no. Let's bring Mischief into it. On 30 wins. That rounds out a very strong top 4. And the only 4 to have a positive goal difference. And they're all above plus 44. That is one dominant top 4. Oracles, though, they find themselves best of the rest on 21. The only side to beat Disorder this season. And, well, Gelvi, they fall down to 6th on 20 wins. Shrine on 7th. They got themselves a draw and a loss this week. Better than the teams around them. Masai and Serene are tied on 17, and Fearless Delta, even though they found a win, they are still a series behind 9th.
Yeah, a lot. Definitely, like I said, the top 4 being really close to each other, actually, and definitely being the goal differential. The only 4 teams having a positive goal differential, and still Disorder and Apprentices being the top 2 and being a very dominant top 2. But we also have Ignis Conference. Buddha, what can you tell me?
Well, what can I tell you? It's Feather in first. In the last 5 series, they're finding themselves 2 draws and 3 wins, and that's going to be 36 for them in total, holding that first spot, almost closing in for 2 series ahead. They'll be 5 ahead of Pardas in second place. Will be on 31 in a tie with Kadaho in third with that 31 with them. And then the Clips in fourth after their big week. if they just went 8-0 by that one game, then we will see a 3-way tie. But instead, we'll see them there on 30, tying for that spot with Elves, who will be in 5th on the 30 with them. And then we see that gap from 5th to 6th, a 10-game gap from Elves to Impulse. Impulse will be your team to hold that play-ins position for now, but they do have some company. They've got Orcus in 7th. They'll be joining them. Those two teams going to be battling it out to get for that 6th spot. As the weeks go by, you maybe start to think top 5 is probably starting to become out of reach unless one of those teams start to fumble. But we'll see Crusaders in 8th with 16, a full series behind for that play-in contention. They'll see Kapakli in 9th and 14. We'll see Canaans in 10th, 6 games behind, looking to maybe cause some ruckus here for the conference.
Yeah, and like I said, the 10-game difference between number 5 and number 6 is huge, but we still have a couple weeks left. Could be changing a little bit, but definitely for Elves, Impulse kind of their gatekeeper right now, holding them in the top 5. So curious to see in the coming weeks how that will develop. And talking about coming weeks, we're going to be looking forward to week number 7. Kingsman, giving it to you first for Glacies.
Well, Apprentices, they have a big doubleheader tonight. They place Oracles, who have been on good form recently. They beat the number 1 team. Can they also take that number 2 team to their first loss of the season? They also have Serene Yamato, a team not on the greatest of form, but are still fighting that top 6. So really big games tonight. And Disorder, they play Mischief as well. And, well, Disorder play Neptunium. The big 4, 2 of them will be playing Disorder. And, well, that is a real chance for Apprentices to gain there and push on. And maybe even take the first place spot for the first time this season. But a lot of matchups in Disorder, finally, they might show us their true colours and come back to their winning ways. Or they might just slip down the table.
Yeah, so a big week for Disorder. And maybe we might see a new leader here in Glacies Conference. But only time will tell. Now, Buddha, what can you tell me for Ignis?
Well, Orcus, they're going to be playing a big part to see if they can break that 10-game gap. They'll be playing Eclipse and Kadaho. Eclipse on 30, Kadaho on 31. If Orcus can find a positive week here, we could see that 10-game gap start to reduce. But that's all going to come down to Orcus to see what they can do. And Kadaho will also play Impulse as well. And Impulse are in that same situation as Orcus. They're tied with Orcus. So if Impulse and Orcus can find a victory on Kadaho, then we might see something happen. Maybe an extra play-in spot open up for those teams that are just creeping on the outside. But we'll see some other matchups as well. We're going to see Pardas here looking to get back on track, I'd say. They've just come off a loss and a draw. Probably not the form that they're wanting or looking for. But for this week, they will be playing Impulse and Kapakli. And as I've said before, on paper, this is probably a big positive week for them. And for all these teams out of reach, Kapakli, Crusaders, and Canaans, this is kind of your last week, especially for Crusaders and Kapakli, more realistically to push for those play-ins. Who do we see for Crusaders? They play Elves, and they will be playing the side of Kapakli as well. So definitely a doable week for Crusaders here. I'd say more for their side, but just a lot of mid-table matchups at this point. There's not really any top dog fights. The closest I guess you could call for top dog would be Feather playing Eclipse. So that'll be a big series for both sides there.
Yeah, so maybe like you said, we see a little bit of shifting with that 10-game difference. Maybe one of the number 5, number 6 team, the gap will be bigger and bigger. But that's it for Challenger. Moving up one tier to Rival. Kingsman, giving it directly to you for Glacies Conference.
Well, we move up the tiers, and there's one team that impressed me this week. Sanctum. They go 6-2. They take a 3-1 onto Mystics, a side that were pushing for that first place spot last week. And they also take a 3-1 onto Mirage, a team looking to push into the top 3. Sanctum showing their colours very late on the season, but Fearless go 0-8. They had 2 forfeits against them. Not something really you want at this stage in the season, especially they were near the bottom of the table. But a few losses for the big teams this week, especially to those teams that are looking to push top 6. Apprentices and Uranium both go unbeaten this week with a win and a draw apiece. But overall, the bottom sides are starting to show that the top sides aren't quite done yet.
Yeah, you said it there perfectly with the results that Sanctum had. They definitely, well, you described it perfectly there, actually. Just showing the top that they're not done yet, that there's still a little bit of fight left in them as we're going towards the final week. And now, Buddha, what results happened in Ignis Conference?
Well, I can already start off with Tizok. They almost went 8-0, but they just had to drop one game. They got that 3-1 victory onto Ash, where they did fall to that one individual game, but on the bright side, they did get a 4-0 sweep onto Erebos, so they cleared things up there. For the other side, who went big as well, Onka, they also got a 4-0 sweep onto Erebos, leading Erebos with an 0-8 week. We did not see a team go 8-0, but we did see one go 0-8. So for Erebos there, they're going to be looking for a big regain in the following week coming up. But Onka then also followed through with a 2-2 draw onto Norns as well. And Norns, I believe, went to a double drawing week here as well. They found a 2-2 onto Sentinels as well. But either way, it's big and positive for the sides of Tizok and Onka, and also Sentinels, who also found a victory after that draw, which I believe is going to be on Caligo there with a 3-1 victory. So a pretty good week for your top teams who are looking to continue. And for the teams down kind of the middle, bottom end, no one really popped off with wins. I'd say the best team with the highest record out of those players' positions was Norns, and they went 4-4.
Yeah, so here as well, the top teams slowly extending their reach to really claim those playoffs, and the bottom still struggling a little bit. Not like Glacies. And while we're talking about Glacies, let's take a look at the standings. Kingsman, to you.
Glacies Conference Journeyman, they stay in that first place spot. 32 wins. Uranium, though, slightly creeping up behind on 31. Mystics will find themselves on 28, going above Serene Meiji onto 28 as the fourth place spot rounds out. Mirage find themselves on 25. And while Yoruba, they weren't able to find a win this week, it forces them down to 6th place. Anarchy, they found 2 draws this week, and they're able to hold a stable 7th, with Sanctum being the big winners this week. They move up to 8th and within 6 wins of the top 6. And Montbelliard fall down that one, and they are 6 wins off as well. But Fearless Charlie, that double forfeit week, doing nothing good for them, as they find themselves a total of 9 wins off of the top 6.
Yeah, so here the top 4 being pretty close to each other, and then actually everyone underneath there still has a pretty solid chance, but 5, 6, and 7 definitely having the best chance to make maybe even playoffs, but definitely solidifying them for play-ins. And now moving to Ignis Conference, Buddha, giving it to you.
Giving it to me. How polite, how kind of you, Tavish. Well, to start things off, as mentioned earlier in the chat, the only team to win 10 series so far this season is going to be Tizok in first place. They're going to be on 36 wins there, just 5 ahead of Onka, who will be in second place. They'll be on that 31 mark, but 2 games behind them is going to be Sentinels in third. All of these 3 teams went positive. That's why they're still in your top 3. They're going to be on 29. The only 3 teams that have a hefty and big positive goal difference. They're going to be leading that playoff spots for now. But Continuum, they will be in 4th place, looking to make that push. But they will be a whole series behind to just contend with a 3rd place spot. But Caligo will be at 5th with 23, only a couple behind. And we'll also see Nightfall in 6th place as well with that 21. We start to see those 2 game gaps there between 4th and 6th. But Raiju will be in 7th with just 1 game behind, alongside with Erebos, despite going 0-8. And they're definitely going to be thinking themselves, damn, even if we just got 3 games that week, they would be in those play-in spots right now. So Erebos definitely slumped and flumped for those play-in spots there, but they're still close within it. Norns in 9th on 19, and we'll see Ash in 10th on 16 as well. All of these teams outside of play-ins ever so close to taking the 6th spot.
Yeah, definitely. All teams being very close. They're kind of similar like with the Glacier Conference. The top 3 really close to each other. And I see a little bit of gap, but there's still a good potential to just bounce back. And talk about potential, there are a lot of potential matchups here that can shift the standings. Kingsman, going with Glacies first.
Well, Journeyman, they can really shift the mid-table this week. They play Mirage and Yoruba 5th and 6th. Remember, it's a tight battle. They can't drop games. These 2, but Journeyman, they want to push on. They want to go far and far further forward and away to safety. But Sanctum, I'd call them a big week this week. They play 9th and 10th. It's a real week where they can get a double win again and push themselves even further towards that top 10. Top 10? Everyone's in the top 10, sorry. Top 6. Real big week for them. Could see them hovering outside the top 6. And Serene Meiji, also I will put, they have Yoruba. Another big game for the mid-table. So a lot of mid-table and bottom table scraps this week.
Yeah, so maybe next week when we go over the standings, we might see a little bit of changes with the 5th till 9th spot, as definitely a lot of movement can happen there. Now, Buddha, what matchups are interesting in the Ignis conference?
Well, we're going to see Tizok play Continuum. That's going to be a big matchup, especially if Continuum want to, come closer for that playoff spot and contention. And they'll be playing Erebos as well, who are, not on recent form. Erebos in their last 5 series have lost 4 and won 1. So if Continuum, if they can find a big result onto Tizok, or at least a draw, and then get their result onto Erebos, they could be looking good for those playoff spots to at least compete with. But we'll also see Caligo versus Onka as well. That's one of those other games as well, where if Caligo want to, keep playoffs, within sight, then that's definitely a series that they've got to take down, because Onka are one of your teams who are going to be looking to hold their playoff spot. They are 5 games behind first, so I don't think they're looking to slip out of 2nd or 3rd for the remainder of the season. We'll also see Norns play Erebos as well. Norns are, recently probably not on best form, but 4 draws out of their last 5 series. So there's definitely something there on the roster. If they want to make a play-ins push, that's definitely a series to get their victory. They're only 2 games behind. And also for Raiju as well, obviously they do have a tough matchup, but they will be playing Ash as well. So if Raiju, again, they're 1 game behind play-ins. So if they want to keep that alive and maybe get into that top 6, then that's what they got to do. But Nightfall, they're in their biggest position, I think. They're in that play-in spot. They're only 1 game comfortable in it, and they will be playing Sentinels and Onka. So it's not going to be an easy week for Nightfall, the team that's gatekeeping that play-in spot.
Yeah, so Nightfall definitely having a very rough week, but Raiju and Norns, like you said, definitely having the potential to maybe kind of use the situation to their advantage. But that is it for Rival. We're going up another tier to Elite. We're slowly moving to the top here of RSC. And talking about results in one of the top tiers, I can already definitely see a couple interesting ones, but first, giving it to you, Kingsman.
Well, there are some interesting ones indeed. Temple find themselves at a loss to Bladesmiths this week. The new Bladesmiths roster goes 7-1, and wow, they look to be packing their way to the top 6. And Fearless Bravo also get themselves a 7-1 week, looking very comfortable near the top. And another team that has started to pick up form, Profits. They go 6-2. They were on the bottom when we talked last week, so there might be some changes there, but Severance finding 2 losses. The roster rebuild absolutely not gone to plan for them at the moment, but we'll see how that can change as the week goes on.
Yeah, like you said, a couple big results happening here, definitely with Profits. Beautiful week for them. But before we go to the Galaxy standings, first, let's take a look at the Ignis results. Buddha, what happened there?
Well, as you can see on your screen, there is not a single number 2. There was no draws here in Ignis, so there was 3 teams that I just had to pick out because they all went big and positive. Tigris, to start it off, they went with a 6-2 week, and this massive for them because they did have a slumping week. I believe they lost both series, where it started losing to Holdra. So for Tigris to bounce back, this was good. They got a 3-1 victory onto Darkness and a 3-1 victory onto its Kotal. So for Tigris, 6-2 for them. But Carbo, 7-1. They got a 4-0 sweep onto Velocity, followed through with a 3-1 victory onto Embry as well. So a big week for them. I believe for their recent form, as of recent, I said that twice, that just sounded weird. It wasn't looking too bad. I believe they just found a loss, a draw, and a win. It looked a bit messy, but they got a double win, so definitely looking more clean and consistent. And then Scorch going 7-1. This is probably the biggest one because Scorch, they started off in that bottom half. They brought in Spooks. They've been improving week by week. and they barely found 2 losses in a week. I believe last week they went 1-1 with wins and losses. So this week they got a 4-0 sweep of the Thanatos and a 3-1 victory onto Vanguard on a team that's been up and coming. Vanguards, I believe, were undefeated at some point, and I believe they got defeated a couple of weeks ago, but they gave them their second loss. So for Scorch, a big week, and for all of these 3 teams.
Yeah, so like I said, 3 teams with very big results. Definitely for Scorch, a very big week indeed. And now let's take a look at standings, because all these big results definitely have massive effects on the standings, right? First, going to Glacies.
Yeah, and well, Fearless Bravo will finally take the top spot off of Temple. It's been a long wait for them, but they finally take it. In Deception, they rise to that 3rd place spot, and Bladesmiths, they perform massively, but there's still a series behind that 3rd place spot. Zulu find themselves 23rd, and Andrew move up into that 6th place. Then 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th. 2020, 19, 17, all within a series of each other. So it's going to be an actual proper fight for this top 6. Every game is going to matter now. And I don't get normally to say that for any conference, but every game near the bottom is going to be a difference, because normally there's a gap of about, what in this conference is 10 to 3rd, from 10th to 6th. But in this case, it's really close, really spread out, really competitive, and that's what we like to see.
Yeah, like you said, well, actually perfect there. Like, a lot of teams still at the bottom, Serena Zucchi, Saturnia, they can still make the play-ins if they have a very good week. Let's see if Ignis has the same. Buddha, what can you tell me?
Oh, it's juicy, don't you worry. But to start it off, it's going to be Tigris up in first. 32 wins for them, with a massive chunky goal difference up there, plus 56. But 3 wins behind them is going to be Vanguard in second. They dropped the series in an L, so that definitely dropped them behind a little bit. But they're going to be on 29, still comfortable for top 3, but not too cozy, because there's a 3-way tie here. 28 wins for Holdra, Carbo, and its Kotal. Holdra, I believe, I want to say, had a negative week, or it might have just been neutral, not too sure. But either way, it wasn't the best. 3 and 5 for Holdra, so they do
blame Con.
Drop. Yeah, blame Con. Always blame Con. Because of that, they drop into that 3-way tie, but that's what we love to see. We love to see that competition, to watch these teams fight. And then in 6th place, we can see Velocity on 24, a full series behind the 3rd to 5th. But they got 3 games advantage here on the Scorch, who had a massive week to get themselves into that play-ins hope alive, and that's what they've done exactly. Thanatos in 8th with 17, Embry on 17 in 9th, Darkness on 16. Just 1 series within it from Darkness all the way up into Scorch. And then, I mean, let's just be honest, Kingsman. Elite, it's consistent of how close it is. We never see a massive gap between that play-in spot or from a 10th place team completely dropping out.
Yeah, and I agree with you as well, but both conferences here in the elite tier really close to each other. That can bottom team can still make play-ins if they have a very good couple of weeks. And now let's take a look at what will happen this up and coming week. Kingsman, giving it to you first for Glacies conference.
Well, a top 3 matchup on today. We have Deception versus Fearless Bravo. A massive matchup there for both sides. A win for Deception would close the gap between them and first, but a win for Fearless would push them further away from Temple, who have Profits, who have been on the run up the table recently. And they also have Anju, a side that need to solidify their top 6 spot, or they might see themselves go tumbling down. Severance in 7th, they have 5th and 6th. This week, they really need wins instead of losses or draws if they are going to get up until 6. One of the only team in Elite to have 7 draws this season. There's a fun. I think that might be one of the highest in the league this season. So if they could find a few wins this week, it could really solidify a top 6 finish here. But you never know. Elite is very competitive.
Yeah, and already one very big matchup happening tonight with Deception and Fearless. Maybe we can already get a result in tonight. Otherwise, we have to wait a full week to see what the top 3 did to each other. But first, Buddha, what can you tell me for Ignis Conference?
Well. there is some juicy matchups. As I mentioned earlier, we got that three-way tie happening. I mean, almost every team is just within a series to clinch that play-in spot. So you could to be boring, you could say, oh, every matchup matters, blah, blah, blah. But don't worry, we'll pick out some juicy ones. We've got Vanguards versus its KOTOR, a big series right there. I believe only one game separates them both, and that's second versus fifth. That's how close it is. So if Vanguards can find something there, they'll start to open up a little bit of a gap. But Vanguards have another crucial series as well. They play Carbo. 1 game difference, second versus fourth. So Vanguard's a big week, and for Carbo and its KOTOR, they're probably hoping that the other side is like, okay, can you beat Vanguard, but at the same time don't win, so we can climb a little bit. It's one of those situations that at the end of the day, you're probably just hoping for a draw and you beat the team just to get something gained on them. But for these other teams as well, Holdra, this is kind of a big week for them to bounce back. Obviously going 3-5, they're in that top 3, and on paper this is a good week for them to bounce back on. They'll be playing Embry and Scorch, but Scorch are on recent form, looking pretty good. They've not drawn a series all season long, just wins and losses only. So Holdra, you're either winning or you're losing. There's no draw available up for grabs. But Tigris, on paper, it's looking like a mediocre week. Obviously, their tough game there is going to be Carbo. Carbo, I believe, have won 3 series in their last 5, so definitely not going to be easy. But then they do play Velocity as well, who, not as of recently, I wouldn't say it's been strong. It's not been terrible or scrappy, so it's going to be a big series there. But other than that, you could pick out any matchup here for the Ignis Conference of Elite.
Yeah, so Ignis definitely showing the importance for every matchup. Definitely we could see a little bit of change like in the Glaciers conference, but we have to wait till next week to see fully what happened there. Now, that was Elite. Let's move up to Master. First off, always the results from the previous week. And Kingsman, giving it to you.
Well, Dominion, they find themselves at a loss once again. They take a loss to Phoenix, who seem to be on a rampage after a forfeit last week. They might be cruising up the league table. They find 2 wins, and so do Iovi. They go 7-1, both sides. At opposite ends of the table, but both sides will be looking to push further forward. Heck, they faced an FF loss as well this week to Messias. That doesn't see them, but that sees them go 1-7. But a side that went 1-7 on 2 losses this week will be Illusion. They were pushing the top 3 at the end of last week, but 2 wins compared to everyone picking up wins and draws. That will really affect the table.
So Illusion definitely having a rough week. Looking forward to see how the standings have changed because of that. Because as we remember from last week, same as with Elite, Master is really close to each other in their standings. But before we get there, Buddha, giving it to you for all the beautiful results from Ignis Conference.
Beautiful. You know what? I can agree. Fenrir going 1-7, and that's the cause of these 2 teams that I'm about to talk about. To start it off, we'll start with Abyss. They got a 3-1 victory onto Fenrir, and then they also got a 4-0 sweep onto Transcend. So for Abyss, a big week. But a team had a bigger week. A team had a better week. We finally see an Ato in the Ignis Conference of all tiers. It's going to be Hades. They got their 4-0 sweep onto Fenrir and their 4-0 sweep on Montezuma. So for Hades here, a huge and crucial week for them. Obviously don't want to spoil any standings, but 8-0, you can never complain. And obviously for Fenrir, it's not going to be good for them. And Montezuma, after losing 4-0, they got swept again by Draugr. So it's an 0-8 week for them. And I've really just looked at it, and there's so many 4-0s. I think there's 3 results that wasn't 4-0 sweeps. So all of these teams are really fighting hard to get those numbers that they need. We see Nox go 6-2 as well. They got a 2-2 draw onto Draugr, which we knew was going to be a big top dog matchup. And it ended in a draw, which is a bit boring, but hey ho, you can't blame them. They're both good teams.
Yeah, like you said, 7 sweeps here in Ignis Conference. One team going 8-0, other team going 0-8, and then the top dog battle, like I said, Draugr and Nox go ending a little bit boring, I must add as well, in a draw. But with that, we're going into the standings, because with all these amazing results, the standings must have shifted First off, Glacies.
Well, the top 3 are unchanged in Glacies. Dominion and Dogon, 33 and 32, round out your top 2 again. And again, we see the top 4 only having a positive goal difference. A +1 for Messiahs and a -1 for Fearless Alpha, the closest there. But 29 wraps out the top 3, and Messiahs 25. It leaves a series gap between playoffs and play-ins. But 23 wins for Haven. They just are the best of the rest. Illusion are tied with Phoenix and Fearless. 2 teams that are pushing their way up, and Illusion are just slowly sliding away. The chances of any good result this season is falling out of their hands. And, well, Serenara, they find themselves 3 games behind, but they've had a roster rebuild, so that could be potentially a reason for the draws. And heck, getting 2 losses this week will only see them 7 games away from the top 6.
Only 7 games away from the top, but in Master it's very difficult to get that back. But like I said, Illusion, they had a bad week and they fell down pretty hard, so maybe look forward to them to get a regain, but it's gonna be difficult. And now Buddha, let's take a look at Ignis standings.
Well, to start it off, up in first place is going to be Nox with 34 wins, and just by goal difference for now, they'll take that top spot. But they got Draugr tied up there with them with 34 across, so I mean, for these 2 teams, it's going to be until the very end to see who will take that spot. But Abyss in third, 5 games behind to contest for a top 2 spot and potentially go for that bye round for the playoffs. But Abyss, they got to hold on a lead here because they're only 3 ahead for Hades here, who are in 4th. Despite going 8-0, it just wasn't enough. They couldn't do more. They couldn't go 12-0, so they can't take 3rd place there. They'll be sitting in 4th for now. Transcend finally having a week where it's just not gone their way. They only found 1 win and a loss of a sweep, which will send them down into 5th with 25. But 2 behind them will be Infinity, who will be in 6th place, holding that play-in spot for now on 23. And then 3 games behind them is going to be 2 teams, Leo and Fenrir, in 7th and 8th, within arm's reach of a series to climb in for play-ins. And Montezuma will be in 9th after their probably disappointing week from their eyes, which you could not disagree with them. They're going to be on 19, just 1 game behind. And then Gladiators in 10th, still on 10 wins. I feel like I've said 10th for 10 for a couple of weeks now. Gladiators just cannot find it going. They can't get it going. And by looking at this one, they're 13 games behind to go for play-in. So it's, you're probably saying it's over, but mathematically it's still possible. They're going to be your team looking to cause damage.
Yeah, you set it up perfectly. Mathematically, there's still a chance for them to get back, but I think at this point, playing for damage is also pretty fun, since you can just really mess up the top 6. And let's take a look if they have any matchups coming that can really mess up the top 6. But first, Glacies Conference. Kingsman, heading over to you.
Well, big matchups we have indeed. Dominion, they play IOV in a top 3 scrap. And, well, is absolutely going to be definitive for IOV, whether they can make the top 2 slip up here. But a big game I'd say that not many people will probably pick up is that Haven, they have a big week. They play Illusion in 6th and Fearless Alpha in 8th. Considering the gap between them, between 5th and 8th, is 2 wins. There's a lot of competition behind them, especially with Phoenix being on the up and up like they are currently, and Illusion being on the down, and the other 2 teams finding the good ground in the middle. And Illusion are not going to be happy when they find out they have to play Haven, because that is going to be a hell of a matchup, because if Illusion don't find their form, then we might see them slip towards Serenara.
Yeah, Illusion having a very rough week here, facing the number 1 seed, and then facing off against Haven for that top 6 battle. But now, let's head over to Ignis. Buddha, giving it to you.
Well, I believe, as recently informed by Kingsman, I think Draugr won their series 3-1 to Infinity.
Yep.
Just want to double check. Yep, it is correct.
Yeah, that's correct.
The 3-1 victory there, that was played today. Alongside today, Fenrir and Gladiators, Abyss and Montezuma. Not massive series, but for Fenrir, I guess you could say it's critical, as they are close for play-ins. And Gladiators, everyone's probably looking at that team thinking, okay, this is a 4-0. We need to get as many points as possible. So for Gladiators, just finding a game or 2 could be crucial. So Fenrir, they need to find something there. Nox, they'll be playing Hades and Abyss, who are in 3rd and 4th. Pretty much could be a series behind them if Hades and Abyss can find a result. If Nox completely shut both of them out, then I think we're probably going to see a top 2 confirmed, because Draugr versus Leo, I don't think they're going to drop that series. But hey, anything can happen. We've seen upsets happen, so you never know. Transcend, they've got to play Fenrir, so it's probably a good series for them to get back on track, especially when they play Montezuma as well. So Transcend looking to keep players alive. But I believe it is a roster change. I believe their roster has been dropped, so not too sure how the new roster is going to, how they're going to hold up. So that'll be a good week to see how they kind of fixture up against those teams where they should be beating if they want to go through into that play-ins situation. But other than that, yeah, it's just Nox trying to keep for that top spot. Draugr probably going to have a good week now, as obviously resulted with a 3-1 onto Infinity. But mainly, I'm looking at Fenrir and Gladiators to see if Fenrir can keep their play-ins alive. And Leo, well, they play Draugr and they play Hades. It's going to be tough for Leo.
Yeah, and so maybe we see a solidified top 2 at the end of this week. Maybe we see a completely different top 2 at the end of this week. But also one team I think has a pretty solid attempt here to solidify themselves as top 6 is Transcend, facing off against Montezuma and Fenrir. Obviously, Fenrir and Montezuma are both also still in that contention, so curious to see how that one's gonna play out. But that was Master. Now we're moving to the top of the top here in RSC. We're going to Premier. And Kingsman, giving it to you first for what happened last week in the Glaciers Conference.
Well, Symbiotes keep up their good run of form. They pick up a 3-1 on 2 high risers. Day, Solace and Visionary. Well, sadly we didn't get a result there. Neither do we get a result in Team Serene Division. Oh dear, half of them not played. But Team Husky, though, they continue their good run of form with a 4-0 sweep on 2 Fearless Esports. It sends them just plunging down the table again.
Yeah, sadly 2 results missing, but like I said, Symbiotes just showing form. Team Husky, they come back with another sweep. And Buddha, luckily you have 4 results to talk about.
Oh, how lucky. I'm so lucky. Well, we've got Forge versus Momentum. I may be lucky, but it was only a draw, nothing too spectacular. But going into the week, it was definitely a week for Momentum. Going into it, they did not find a draw or a single win. So a draw, they can't be too upset about it. And for Forge, well, they've won, drawn and lost. They've been everywhere. So for them, it's probably just another day on the field. But Kronos versus Shaman Esports. Shaman Esports find another victory there. For Kronos, they're still just can't find a win. That was a series to really do it, to look for a chance, but Shaman shut them down. RQS Esports and Centurions, this was a series to watch out for. Going into the week, these were your top 2 teams. Well, as said, top 2 teams, it's a draw. So that's just how it fizzles out. Nothing exciting. No team upsets or takes dominance. But Ox Gaming, talk about dominance. They find a 4-0 sweep, the only sweep in the Ignis Conference. They'll find it onto Domination. And for Ox Gaming, they were going into this week without a series win. So a big, big week for them. They're going to be looking to carry on that momentum for future weeks.
Yeah, and RQS Centurions, we were hoping for a big result, same as in the Master Tier with Nox and Draugr. But draw's all you're going to get. Let's take a look at the standings, how they have changed. First up, Glacies.
Well, Symbiotes, they keep that first place spot. I don't think there's a real shot there. But Husky, it says everyone moves down. Don't worry, that is wrong. Team Husky, they go up into second on 10 wins. Feladay also on 10 wins. And Solace, they find themselves on that 4th with 8. And a series gap then to Visionary, Division, and Fearless. All a whole series out, which, considering you only play 1 series a week, is massive. And the Team 3, and they find themselves just separated by 1 game.
Yeah, and obviously Solace, Visionary, Division, Team Serene all still having a series in hand. That could maybe change it a little bit, but definitely Symbiotes still being dominant like we expect from them. And now let's take a look at the Ignis Conference.
Well, with RQS Esports drawing to Centurions, it has invited Shaman Esports for a top spot fight. We'll see RQS up in first still, though. They will be on 12 wins, still undefeated here, so they'll be looking to remain strong. Centurions in second, though, on 10, alongside with Shaman Esports for that tie for the top 2 spot. But only one game behind is going to be Forge in fourth. They'll be on 9 wins. Closer for the top 3 than the team that are behind them, who will be on 6 wins, 3 games behind. It's going to be Domination. After getting swept, they're still holding into that top 5, so they're going to be looking to bounce back. But Kronos, they'll be in 6th with 6 wins alongside with them. Also with Ox Gaming, who got that sweep to keep themselves alive here in the standings. Otherwise, we would have seen a little bit of a gap there. But Momentum will be in 8th place. Still not found a series win alongside with Kronos, but they're still looking to stay alive. We've not seen a team that's looking to be, for sure, not be able to compete for those playoffs. Every team within still in it. And no one's a series in hand. They've all played their series. They've all caught up.
Yeah, that's one thing that caught my eye as well. Everyone here played their 4 series that they needed to play, and the standings definitely still being pretty close to each other, so a lot of things can happen. And now let's take a look at what's going to happen this week. Kingsman, giving it to you first for Glacis.
Well, Symbiotes will be playing Solace tomorrow. A real top 4 matchup. And Visionary will be playing Hosky, so a big game. Visionary need a win if they want to push themselves forward. And obviously, what's meant to happen, we're going to see Feladay Team Serene, which obviously hasn't been scheduled yet, and Division Fearless, another one not to have been scheduled.
Yeah, so Symbiote Solace definitely looking forward to that one. And now let's take a look at Ignis Conference.
Well, the 2 teams who haven't won a series so far, they'll be facing up tomorrow. Momentum versus Kronos. Could we potentially see a team find their first victory? Now I say that, it's probably going to be a 2-2, but we see Shaman Esports go up against Ox Gaming. Shaman Esports are on a 3-win streak as of recent and as of now. So they're looking on form, but Ox Gaming, they found their first victory. It's a tough matchup, but maybe they look to start to get things going. But Forge will be playing RQS Esports. As mentioned earlier, obviously RQS, they've been holding first all season long. So for Forge, a big result could do big things there for the top half of the standings. But finally, Centurions versus Domination. Centurions, after their draw to top place, they're probably looking to get back on track with a victory. And for Domination, this is definitely a series to get under the belt, as in the last 3 series, they have not found a victory ever since their first series of the season.
Yeah, so Momentum Kronos, we might finally have one of the 2 teams getting a win here in Premier. But that's it for all the standings, all the results and the matchups that happened in all the separate tiers. Now let's take a look at the franchises. Kingsman, giving it to you first.
Well, Ox Gaming still find themselves at the bottom with 88 wins in 20th place. For Templar 101 find themselves in 19th, with Might of Hades creeping up in 18th. DSQ find themselves up to 17th in 109, just up ahead of them. Fearless Esports on 110 and Luna Esports 111. But then Team Serene, a series gap to them in 14th and 5 wins. Sanctuary, Visionary, and then in 11th. On 121 is Azteca.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Sorry, Tavish. Apologies, but go get to top 10.
Continue.
Symbiotes in 10th, 122 wins, just 1 ahead of that 11th place spot as Tekka. But in 9th, we'll see Shaman Esports on 123. They're not the only ones. We're going to see Shadow Esports on 123. And 3 ahead of them, we'll see Valkyrie Knight in 7th with 126 alongside Momentum, who will claim that 6th spot for now. But we'll see 1 game ahead of them. Green Phoenix will be in 5th place with 127. Illusory, they're just going to stay stale. They're like, okay, we'll chill in top 4 for now. 132 wins under the belt, but 1 ahead of them is going to be Systema Solaris in 3rd place with 133. And now we start to see a little bit of a gap. A whole series ahead of them is going to be Forge in 2nd. But as always, Panthera Esports up in 1st, not by 1 series, by almost 2 whole series. The only team to go, well, actually not the only team anymore. Sismas did go triple digits now for the goal difference, but Panthera Esports just dominating so far. Big goal difference, 144 wins, looking to claim and hold and stay in that top spot. Panthera looking good, but all these other teams, I mean, marvellous. Kingsman, congrats for staying top 10. Me and Tavis were just, well, we just want to give other teams a chance, right? We're just, we're passing the torch.
Sure, if that's what you want to call it, sure. I'm slowly hoping that my teams, are gonna progress to get that to the top 10. I don't want to have a repeat of RSC10 was my first season. But, one thing that I did notice that in the bottom 10, all teams or franchises are actually pretty close to each other. So some big results from all the teams can definitely shift how everything is going to be standing next week or maybe even the week afterwards. While the top 10, there are a little bit bigger gaps, but those are standings. We're only talking about what we see, and maybe time will completely shift them. One thing is certain: Panthera Esports is definitely the top franchise here in overall standings. And we had a lot of results. We had a lot of different standings. Some teams really climbing up, some teams slowly falling down. There must be a beautiful clip of the week, so I think we have a beautiful tape. Let's roll it. Let's see what our RSC players did last week.
Keep going. Move on. Yeah.
Take it back forward. Go on. Let's go.
Go on.
Of Newborn at this point. The final minute dawns, 2-goal deficit. Difficult to beat. Over the top, overdrive. Are you kidding me? That's a double tap off the ceiling in Prospect.
Well,
that's not allowed. Past 2 players as well. Oh my goodness.
I know someone who's getting a promotion next split.
Oh hell.
What a stand-up.
It's alright, boys. I got you. Got you again.
All the way?
Yes, I had it, boys.
Well, a lot of beautiful goals. A lot of double taps, a lot of bounces. Except Spartax, he didn't bounce. Buddha, giving it to you first this time. What do you think?
Well, instantly my vote is for Spartax, the only one that didn't bounce, and it was a beautiful goal. But it doesn't discredit the rest. They were beautiful goals. We got Dan Durant taking it, well, a good save to start it, takes it from his own corner, gets past the whole defense, gets the goal for his team to equalize the game. So can't discredit that. And also Overdrive on the stream comes out, that's the prospect here. He comes onto the stream. It might be his first stream game. We don't know. But he comes out, gets a double, showing what's up, showing his skill set. I'll see the rest of the clips. Hypnos, and I can't forget the last one. No.
Toby.
Toby, that was it. All good goals, but Spartax for me. It didn't bounce.
Yeah, the bounce is very important. But Kingsman, what do you think?
I mean, I don't want to say we were counting the shots that bounced whilst we were watching them all on our thing, but we might have been. But yeah, a lot of double taps. Spartax's shot, very unique for this week's clip of the week as well. Backboard reset, double touch. Very well controlled as well. So I think that one takes it. Very nice shot though from Overdrive and Prospect, the ceiling shot double as well. You don't see a lot of them coming out in Prospect. So I think any other week that didn't have that shot from Spartax, he'd have taken it by far.
And I must say, obviously, I'm also thinking Spartax, since it was just pure mechanical just brilliant, actually. But also one that I really liked was the one from Toby. Elusive just banged it forward. Toby reading it into the air, getting the double from it. A little bit of a bounce, obviously. Like Kingsman said, we were maybe we were counting the bounces. Who knows? That's just a side effect. But looking at the poll, I think everyone agreed Spartax is gonna be your clip of the week winner here. Let's roll the tape again. Let's take a look at all these beautiful double touches and the one from Spartax that won.
Keep going, keep going. I'll be fine. Yeah.
Take it back forward. Go on. Let's go.
One.
Defense of Newborn at this point. The final minute dawns. 2 goal deficit. Difficult to beat. Over the top. Overdrive. Are you kidding me? That's a double tap off the ceiling in Prospect.
Well,
That's not allowed. Past 2 players as well. Oh my goodness.
I know someone who's getting a promotion next split.
Oh, hell.
What a save, though.
It's alright, boys. I got you. I got you again.
More. All the way.
Yes, I had it, boys.
And there you have it. Another look at all those clip of the week submissions. And in the end, Spartax winning it with his double touch, triple touch, flip reset. I don't know what else he did. I'm not a mechanical mastermind. I don't even play myself. Maybe Buddha Kingsman have more knowledge about that. But, you know, we had a clip of the week. Spartax won this one. We also have a fail of the week. So let's run the tape. I'm speechless. Kingsman, giving it to you first.
Well, I mean, it didn't bounce, so I think if that had gone... Honestly, send that in the other net. That goes clip of the week for me. All day long. It goes off the ceiling. He reads it perfectly, and it doesn't even bounce. Honestly, superb own goal, but you know what? It's definitely worthy of fail of the week.
You know, I agree. It didn't bounce. It didn't bounce. Buddha, what do you think?
Well, as I always say, you know, if you just went into some editing software, changed the colours about, you could have submitted that as clip of the week, and it probably would have won at this point. It was beautiful. It was a great goal, just not the right goal. So maybe next time. But it's beautiful. It's a great goal to watch, despite, you know, the circumstance.
Yeah, but you know, if you only look at Mechanical Masterclass, then he could be potential competing there with Spartax. But let's take a look at it again, because obviously, just one more look, quickly see how beautiful that was before we continue. Yeah, beautiful shot there. Sadly in his own net. But congratulations, Crayon, for winning, losing. I think with a shot like that, it's still a victory. It doesn't matter in what net it's going. But yeah, clip of the week, fail of the week, Spartax winning clip of the week. Crayon, winning fail of the week. I still don't know how to actually call it, but you know, let's just continue. We have weekly awards to go through. A lot of tiers, a lot of awards. Let's see how all players did. Kingsman, giving it to you first for Prospect.
Hunter RV never fails to surprise me, does he? 714 points per game with 3.63 goals per game. You're not beating that. But Boyo from the Fearless roster will be your striker with 75% shooting accuracy. Johnny 11 tied with Cam will be your playmaker, and Lucas from the FAs will be your savior of 3 saves a game.
Mwah. That's all I can say. 714 points. Absolutely beautiful. Can Challenger live up to that challenge? Well, let's find out. Your MVP is going to be dope. It's still a lot of points, but it's not 700. 602.13 MVP. Your finisher is going to be CJ with 2.5 goals per game. And your striker, Sam Dusk, 90.91% shooting accuracy, almost a hundo. But your playmaker is going to be Liquid with 2 assists per game, setting up for his team. But your savior is going to be Maui. That's a name I love to see on the board. 3.38 saves per game, keeping that defense at bay.
And well, moving up into rival tier very quickly, we have Sinksy. Oh, I'm not going to try and pronounce Milliosi because I feel like I get it wrong. But then Ked from the FA roster will be your finisher with 2 goals per game. And wow, something everyone aspires to, especially my challenger players, is 100% shooting accuracy from Chilsey. Sammy Boy takes the playmaker with 1.75, and we will now see why Sinksy got all those points. He's got 3.38 saves per game.
Too many saves, not letting the ball go in his own net. Nope, he's denying it. Pilot dodge as well. Almost he'll be tying for that first spot. But into the elite tier, can they go higher or will they live up to the expectation? Your MVP is going to be First Beast. 667.25 points per game. But your finisher, it obviously wasn't good enough because he's now an FA, but 2.25 goals per game alongside First Beast as well. But your striker, MOH. No, not Might of Hades. It's MOH. 66.67% shooting accuracy. But your playmaker, he may have 11 clown reactions in his FA ad, but hey, he's got 2 assists per game for his roster. And your savior is going to be cramming in those saves. 3.75. Almost a 4 average. Kingsman, give us the master tier stats.
Honestly, Con is just... He's just fat taking up all the points at this rate, honestly. Unbelievable. But your master MVP will be Adri, 661 points per game. He'll be your MVP. Fluffy Swede from the Visionary roster, tied with 2 others, will be your finisher. Clarky from the Symbiotes roster. Oh, and Hecky Gaming finds himself in the master tier. Look at him go, shining bright. That's my highlight now of the RSCast, seeing Hecky in the master player of the week. But Adri, he is your playmaker, also 1.75 assists per game, tied with Bowler and Tally. But Sky, the FA's popping up everywhere. They get your savior with 3.75 saves per game.
See, I told you, Hecky. We played against each other, and I said, oh, you're getting player of the week. And he was like, nah. Well, you don't doubt yourself. But the Premier tier, oh, why is it me with these names? Alayu, I'm going with that. Alayu, 563 points per game. Your finisher is going to be... Is it Flaku? It is Flaku, right?
Flaco.
I'll go with that. Flaco, there we go. I said it right. 1.5 goals per game, a 3-way tie there. But your striker is going to be Zan with 80%. But your playmaker is going to be Wrist Fox with 1.5 assists per game. Almost by Rico there getting up for it. But Alayu, I forgot how I said it now. Oh, damn. Oh, no. I've waffled it. I've bottled it as well. It's a saviour though. 3.5. Alayu, 3.5 saves per game. Buddha just being the usual, can't speak properly. But these are your players of the week in that Premier tier, always putting up numbers.
Well, team of the week, your best players from every single tier. It's TX from the Fearless Echo roster that takes it in. Coben on Apprentices for Challenger. Kazir from Tizok, everyone's favourite rival player, well, mine at least. Kazir for Tizok roster. We're up from Scorch End of Storming Week, and he deserves his spot there for Elite. And Spartax, they go 8-0 through the Hades roster, and well, very deciding on that. He goes to your master team of the weekend. Rizzle, I'll call him Rizzle, on the Ox Gaming roster is going to get your Week 6 award savior. And chat is going absolutely crazy that I've taken a favourite rival player. Oh dear God. What have I done?
Yeah, you definitely stirred the pot now with picking your favorite player, even though he's not in your own franchise. That's always a tricky thing to do here. And, you know, one thing that I always notice when I'm here is Buddha kind of struggling with names, and we're always helping him out. But Buddha, I'm giving it to you, the weekly leaderboards for our Fantasy League, with a lot easier names.
Oh, I can't wait to get to that predictions bit, but for the Fantasy League, your weekly top 3, we have Sinksy in first, 1,369, Form in second as well, but your overall leaderboard is Mox, 4,934, a cute little kitten with some lion hair, you can't go wrong with that. For the weekly top tier managers, RMD in the Premier, Sinksy for your Master tier, Axlos in Elite and Rival, the tiers that he belong, bouncing in between the two, Yannick as well in the Challenger, and Rupod. Is that supposed to be Rapids? Or is this generally someone called Rupods? I didn't know that player existed in RSC. Oh, well, Rupods, welcome. This is the first time I've heard of your name. Welcome to the RSC from me. But your predictions, I just want to say, I've not changed my predictions since week 1. So they've just stayed how they are, and I've somehow got second, so I'll take it. But Halo will be first with 42, and Mithril for the overall predictions in first with 148.
Yeah, a lot of beautiful predicting the results here for our Fantasy League. And those were all our weekly awards with the mini games as well. So right now we had all the results, we had all the standings, we had the franchise standings, we had Clip of the Week, Fill of the Week, weekly awards, we had everything. Do you guys have any final thoughts? While I'm slowly trying to not choke on air. I'm slowly trying to not choke on air, so giving it to you two guys.
Well, I've just been told it is Rapid, so I've just welcomed a non-existent player. But for the future, you know, at least I've welcomed him. You know, we'll just say I already knew this was happening. But my words as always, thank you all for coming. It's always a pleasure. And, you know, we're getting towards the very late stage of league play. Week 7 is obviously starting today out of the 9 weeks. So, you know, it's big games for everyone in the season, whether that be for playoffs or play-ins or for the teams that are trying to reach those play-ins positions. It's Kingsman. You wait, little bro. If I ever see you IRL, I'm not gonna say on stream, but you're in danger. You're in danger. But yeah, it's always a great week. Thank you all for coming, and I'll pass over to the Mimic Master Kingsman.
Well, I just looked over for a minute. I thought he was doing the Macarena over there, to be honest. Just like all over there. Gonna get on his step for a minute. But yeah, week 7 after this week, rosters do lock. So we'll see every team's full potential going up until then. And everyone who is FA, well, I don't know whether to say unlucky or maybe it just wasn't your season. Maybe next season you can come back and be a bit stronger. And get a team. You know what? That's what we all hope for. We can't give everyone a team. We can't just say everyone, oh, here you go, here's a team. But sadly, we don't have that. Yeah, I know, but I know. Look at me. I'm opening the curtains over here. And good luck to everyone in the run-in.
Yeah, and you two said it perfectly there regarding everything. And you gave me a little bit of time to catch my breath to... You know, kind of thank all the sponsors here that make it possible. Because obviously we have Gamers Beat Cancer and Pantera Esports both helping a lot with hosting monthly tournaments. Gamers Apparel for all the beautiful merch. And then we have Badass helping us with all the graphics. Then we have Synthesized Designs, Brick and Break also helping out behind the scenes. And obviously our biggest sponsor, Rule 1. You all know him, you all love him. They're gonna be at the major, actually, so we can finally see them live on LAN, which is pretty huge. And besides that, follow us on our socials. We're on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, all RSC_EU. But that's it here from us. I will establish together with Kingsman Guest, Buddha, giving you everything for the past week. We'll hope to see you guys next week.